Some of these carefully calculating thieves have walked away with millions of dollars in cold, hard cash, some with priceless art, and others with enough gold and jewelry to make the royal family jealous. So what are their tricks? And did they ever get caught? Time to find out. Stealing an ATM with a digger. Nothing quite entices a potential thief like an ATM. There's just something about the fact that the machines sit completely unguarded in public places. If someone could find a way to crack it open, they would be walking away with up to deal. Besides the 250-pound weight of the machine itself, they're typically bolted down into concrete floors. That's why thick-skulled thieves tried to use crowbars or drills to smash it apart, sometimes even ramming cars into them. Over in Northern Ireland, some creative criminals took it one step further. Instead of a car, they used a digger, and as you can see, they had no problem tearing up the wall around it. Like an arcade-style claw game, the thieves then dropped the machine into their roofless Citroën Berlingo van. This was actually the 9th machine stolen in Londonderry within a year. Must have been something in the water. Dunbar armored car robbery of 1987. While they did have the foresight to customize the van, there wasn't a whole lot of planning. Just smash, grab, and then deal with the money and machine later once in hiding. For the Dunbar armored car robbery of 1987, it was another story. This famous crime involved meticulous planning. The gang of 6 thieves, led by a man by the name of Alan Pace, managed to rob the Dunbar Los Angeles vault and walk away with a ludicrous sum of $18.9 million. That's over $28.5 million by today's standards. Alan Pace was the man on the inside. He worked for Dunbar as a regional safety inspector, and by doing so was able to analyze the timed movements of the security cameras. So once the plan was in place, he led his gang through the front door with his very own set of keys. That was the easy part, though. The hard part was overthrowing the guards. Once they were in the clear, they broke into the vault and moved all the cash into, ready for this, a U-Haul truck. How long did they get away with it? Well, for 7 years, the crew remained at large, laundering the cash through businesses. Of course, a slip was bound to happen, and once one, everyone else. Unfortunately for the cops, they only found half the money. Pharmaceutical robbery. As we've seen so far, the bad guys are almost always in a rush. Once they're in, they're only minutes before the police arrive. Our next perpetrators, however, had all the time in the world. By crawling along the floor, the 2 men managed to avoid motion detectors and stayed in the pharmacy for close to 2 hours undiscovered. They'd obviously inspected the Super Value Pharmacy in Euless, Texas before, as they knew the whereabouts of the sensors and also knew exactly what they'd need to do to break into the safe. One of the pair acted as lookout while the other cut into the side of the safe. Despite sparks flying thanks to an angle grinder, they managed to keep the fire risk low by pouring a mystery liquid thought to be cough syrup over the area. But they didn't steal cash. They stole prescription drugs, hydrocodone, OxyContin, Viagra, and Cialis to be exact, a haul worth close to $1 million. And then they got away. The thieves were never caught and the drugs never found. Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum theft. Now it's time for something a little more extreme. This is the Isabella Gardner Museum in Boston, home to what's known as the biggest cold case heist in U.S. history. As you can imagine, a museum wouldn't have too much cash on hand to steal, right? Any guesses what they do have, though? That's right, priceless art. The Storm of the Sea of Galilee by Rembrandt, The Concert of Vermeer, 5 drawings by Degas, and 6 other rare, expensive pieces were snatched up in what turned out to be the single largest case of stolen art in America, like ever. And it was all over and done within just 81 minutes. Apart from the excessive value, what made this event so special? Well, it was the way the 2 thieves broke in. Actually, they didn't break in. They were let in. By dressing up as police, fake mustaches and all, the men were able to trick the inexperienced night watchmen into thinking that they were responding to a disturbance call. If you were a person on guard, would you let 2 shady police officers in? Tough call. Let us know in the comments. The heist happened in 1990, and even today, the museum is still offering a $10 million reward for anyone with info that leads to the painting's recovery. The Great Train Robbery of 1963. A couple of decades earlier, we witnessed another ingenious heist. Give the video a quick like if you've even heard of the Great Train Robbery. If you haven't, well, it's one of the biggest thefts in history. At the time, a team of 15 robbers, led by this dude, Bruce Reynolds, made off with 2.6 million pounds. In today's value, that's close to 55 million or 71 million US dollars. Wow. All right, so how'd these clever thieves orchestrate it then? It was pretty sneaky, actually. Ordinarily, the railway light light would have been green, but they had covered up the green light and connected a battery to power the red light instead. So, by sabotaging the railway's signaling equipment, the Royal Mail train was forced to make an unexpected stop. That allowed the thieves to overthrow the conductor, climb aboard, and quickly take off with 120 sacks full of Scottish and Irish money and valuables. They could have taken more, but ran out of time. They escaped via minor roads, staying one step ahead of the cops by monitoring the radio for police broadcasts. After a wild goose chase, 11 men were found and sentenced to prison, but most of the money remained unaccounted for. Stealing a Tesla. From trains to cars, our next heist is as simple as it is clever. Gone are the days when we would turn a key to unlock and start a car. Modern vehicles are built with keyless entries, which is handy for the driver. Unfortunately, it's also handy for cunning thieves, especially this pair of bandits who got off with nearly a $40,000 Tesla Model 3. The thieves used the fundamental technology of the keyless unlocking system to their advantage. Since most people leave their keys, or their wireless fob in this case, near the front door, one of the two men held up a relay wire system next to the house, which transmitted the signal towards the car, making the Tesla's computer system think that the fob was actually in close range. The other man simply opened the car door, started the ignition, and drove off. Easy as pie. It all happened last year at 3:30 a.m. on a Wednesday morning in Borehamwood, about 12 miles from central London. While the theft was well executed, the driving was not. Local authorities said the stolen car was discovered crashed in London just 30 minutes after it was taken. Hatton Garden jewelry robbery. Next up, we've got the infamous calculated Hatton Garden robbery of 2015. The story goes that a team of criminals broke into a safety deposit company in London called Hatton Garden and got off with £200 million worth of cash and rare jewelry, including diamonds, sapphires, and gold. So how'd they get in? Well, they disabled the alarms, abseiled down an elevator shaft, then used heavy construction drills to put a hole through the thick concrete walls. Eventually, hauling out their collection in giant trash containers on wheels. Oh, and it was Easter Monday, so the place was basically empty. What's also unique about this case are the robbers themselves. They weren't young or flashy. In fact, they were all old guys and former criminals who just wanted to go out with a bang, with one final Hail Mary of a heist. Brian Reeder, a 76-year-old, was the brains behind it all. Although apparently the plan still wasn't smart enough, because they were all eventually caught and imprisoned for up to 7 years. The loot, on the other hand, was never found. Banco's Central Heist. About a decade earlier in 2005, we had another heist of epic proportions involving an elusive man-made tunnel, the Banco Central Heist in Fortaleza, Brazil. In early August, a gang of crafty burglars found a way to tunnel into the bank's vault from next door. Hold up, how did they get next door without being noticed? Well, easy. They rented the next door property. By disguising themselves as a landscaping company, the thieves were able to remove the massive amounts of dirt and rock needed to build the underground tunnel without causing any speculation. It meant they could take their time too, and trust us, it would have taken plenty of time to build a 4-meter deep tunnel that spans 78 meters in length, or 256 feet. Not only did they build this tunnel with plastic and wood casing for a strong support foundation, but they even installed air conditioning and lights. They walked away with the equivalent of over $70 million US, so we're sure they didn't mind splurging on a little AC. Do you think that the perps got caught though? If you guess yes, you're right. 5 of them were arrested, although the majority of the money was lost. The D.B. Cooper air heist. What's more badass than a carefully orchestrated, perfectly carried out underground heist? How about one that's 37,000 feet in the air? This is D.B. Cooper, the mastermind behind the only unsolved air piracy raid in the history of aviation. On Wednesday, November 24th, 1971, a 6-foot-tall man boarded the Northwest Orient Flight 305 from Portland to Seattle. It was as deliberate a plan as any. When on board, he handed a flight attendant a handwritten note and whispered calmly, "Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb." Once she realized the threat was very real, Dan Cooper, well, that was actually his fake name, obviously, demanded 3 things: $200,000, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck in Seattle to refuel the aircraft upon arrival. The money demand was obvious, but it was the 4 parachutes and the refuel that helped him escape. By asking for 4 instead of 1, authorities assumed that he was keeping hostages, but he wanted them to think that so they wouldn't intervene. As requested, the plane refueled, and then he jetted off with the pilot towards Nevada. Somewhere along the way, he parachuted out, never to be seen again. While it's still a mystery, the FBI has come across new info that could change everything. Have we found D.B. Cooper after all? Check out the video in the description to find out. ATM explosion. Remember the digger tearing apart the ATM earlier? Well, when thieves don't have access to diggers, they try out other methods. Sometimes it's cars revving at full speeds while pulling a rope, and sometimes it's a carefully orchestrated explosion. Once in a while, however, the explosion is just a bit too big, destroying much more than just the ATM's casing. This one happened in Hampshire in England in 2013 and was captured by local CCTV cameras. The issue with tampering violently with ATM machines is that many are built with Intelligent Banknote Neutralization Systems, or IBNSs. What? It means that your money is going to be squirted with copious amounts of ink or dye when they try to open the safe, and then nobody will accept it as cash. Knowing that, would you take the risk and try to steal it anyway? Actually, it's probably better to keep that information to yourself. Don't forget to watch our DB Cooper video or check out one of the other awesome stories. See you next time.